Anyway, and then she turned around to him and said, what, you're going to just leave me like this?
That needs to be. I would have done. So, look, Germany's Left Party.
Mm.
The executive, her name is Katy Gebel.
Mm.
There's a name to conjure with. I bet she was bullied when she was at school. I bet she was called Gebel the Goebbels.
Who knows? Yeah.
Anyway, Katy Gebel, or the gerbil, recently gave an interview to the Bild newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Bild is a little bit like it's the equivalent, I suppose, of the Daily Mirror.
Yeah.
Something like that, Daily Star.
Yeah.
And she says that the Left Party, one of the things on their platform, are looking to put a price cap on Doner Kebabs in Germany.
Right.
Okay. The Doner Kebabs, them tasty, meaty, veggie pita bread filled sandwiches, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
I've not had lunch yet. But anyway, yeah. it seems that kebab shops are getting expensive. Some charging up to €8 for a doner kebab. Now kebabs are tasty, like I just said, and I like to eat them whenever I visit the UK. Me and my son, when I was taking him to the UK for him to play football, we used to get into London, and the first thing we did before we continued our journey up north was to go to a kebab shop in Victoria and have a doner kebab. He loves them. They're lovely now. Anyway, the kebabs in Germany were brought across with the Turkish immigrants. Now, in the other podcast, we were talking about the influences of immigration. But kebabs, I'd put a positive twist on that one, because I like them. But it was interesting that she wanted to put this price cap on kebabs in Germany, because I don't know why she, apparently they're part of a Turkish staple diet. It's what they eat. It's a little bit like the bratwurst. Is the bratwurst sausage is the Germans' staple. If you go to Frankfurt and to these places, everybody's eating sausages and bratwurst and senf and mustard, or fish and chips in the UK. That's how what could be classed as our staple, I suppose. Last year, the kebab in Germany cost around €4. But then energy costs rose, and so the sellers, the vendors had to put their prices up as well to accompany the exorbitant energy costs.
Yes,
and also raw material. They're where they buy and then they sell them. Olaf Scholz has been informed of the quiet rumblings, but as yet has not made any official policy.
Right.
Just mentioned that he's heard that there is unrest. So I remember that in the Turks, they're all chuntering that they need to have their kebabs cheaper.
Right. Okay.
What the interesting thing about this was in the Bild. Remember, this was in the Bild. It's like the Daily Mirror.
I get that.
In the last paragraph, it said that the Turks are not the only ones to feel the pinch. Right. It says it mentions ThyssenKrupp. That's Germany's largest steelworks. It's been hit because of energy costs. and they've reduced production. They can't produce as much.
Yeah.
So they're firing 13,000 employees.
Yeah.
To me, that article was a little bit strange, because the sacking of 13,000 employees losing their jobs was just a side note on the fact that a snack, what at the end of the day is a snack, is creating so much furore in Germany that the left party are thinking. The left party didn't mention about ThyssenKrupp. They must be going after the popular vote,
Yeah, I was going to say, my mind was working to that. Yeah, what does everyone worry every day about? A sheet metal, yeah.
So we know that things are getting tight in Germany.
Yeah.
Low industrial production, because it's not only steel where the production's gone down, and expensive kebabs, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Now, my thing about kebabs, I had one day when I was sober. I realised how much of it ended up on the pavement as I was walking along. Yeah, used to buy them in London and eat them as you're going along. And you're talking about eight euros for a kebab. We've been paying that down in years. That's stuff like that. It's a yeah. I mean, I'm afraid, yes, prices are going up across Europe, and there's nothing to do. I mean, we all know there's root reasons why, and it doesn't matter which party is in place. There's been some policies made and some things that all politicians adhere to in the past that have forced energy prices up, which if you actually, I know from experience, if you're a cafe or a place that produces food, your biggest expense is energy, keeping the place going. I can always look around and buy cheap wholesale food elsewhere. I can drop the quality of my food, yeah, which means I drop the price, yeah. You can produce the best kebab or the best burgers in town, but if you don't get your pricing right, you're going to go bankrupt quite quickly in the reverse way. Yeah. I know this from personal experience. Yeah, you can be too good at quality, and people will always go to the cheaper one. If something's half price down the road, they won't always worry too much about quality. Yeah, as regards to kebab, yes, the kebab is a thing that affects most people in Germany, across all classes possibly. Yeah, they're going to jump on that. 13,000 people being made off in a local area from a factory, that is not the news that even a left-wing leaning party wants. Because it means if they win the next election, I'm not sure who's in power in Germany at the moment, I must admit. They're coalitioned, aren't they? So it's a slightly different system. It means somebody has got to do something about this problem. It's easier to fix a problem publicly, like the kebab, putting a cap on the price of kebabs. Oh, we're doing something to help you people, rather than addressing root cause of problems. And I'm going to be perfectly honest here. The way I see the way to resolve the economic situation across all of Europe, and I'm not an economist, and please, if there's any economists that listen, you can correct me here, there has to be a degree of nationalism go across into individual countries as well. I'm not going to call it selfishness. Nationalism. Nationalism. Looking after yourself, not importing, being self-sufficient. Yeah. Germany, unfortunately, yeah, Germany now has a policy, was running, and we'll talk about energy on Russian fuel. They're having to suddenly do a big investment on bringing back coal power stations because they had an agenda of whatever that was, which never made any sense to me anyway. And I've worked in the energy sector. You can't just suddenly decide you're going to go one policy to another. You have to phase everything in, and you have to cost it properly. That's called business. Every country now has to operate as a business. You cannot operate the whole of the European Union, and I'm going to bring the whole EU in because it's not only Germany is suffering this. operate the whole inventory. That's extreme. That just is not going to happen. If you allow, if we all go back to being independent states and doing business as and when we require, I think things will improve across Europe. Allowing countries to decide their own fates, as it were. Because we all know that, I thought part of the idea of the EU, it was to stop this kind of thing happening. Yeah, layoffs and things like this. When company that's main thing is to process metal, can't afford to actually process metal in the quantities possibly even required, the knock-on effect is going to be far worse. There's not going to be any metal for people to have things in their houses if they need it, for construction industry, for cars.
Well, I think we just have to look at the 80s, 70s, and 80s when Sheffield Steel was shut down. What happened? How did we cope in the UK when Sheffield Steel, basically Attercliff in Sheffield, was a huge steelworks?
Yeah,
just steelworks after steelworks after steelworks, and it's all closed down. I don't think there's even one steelworks left in Attercliff in Sheffield, and Sheffield produced the best steel in the world.
Yeah,
it was. We were. However, what did we do? We had to buy cheap steel products from abroad.
Yeah.
I think that the government in the West has tried to put all the hard work on the countries in the East.
Yeah.
The Chinas of this world, the Asias, the whole general Asia thing in this world, the Eastern Europeans of this world, they're producing, which is why Russia is not doing too badly at the moment. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
According to Putin, because they're producing. The UK, which is skint, isn't producing anything. The US, which is deeply in debt, nobody wants the dollars they're trying to sell anymore. And so they're not producing. They've shipped all their companies abroad.
That Rust Belt more or less disappeared, as you've got our equivalent, the Sheffield across the Midlands. The industry disappeared there. Sheffield Steel across the world. I believe there's actually that's iron. Yeah, there's actually structures in Brazil that were built with British metals.
Of course. The bridge in the centre of Recife.
Yeah, I know, that's the one I'm thinking of. Because every time I go over it, I bang on it with a bottle of water across it. I say, that isn't going anywhere. That's a solid piece of metal. She tells me to shut up. It's embarrassing. But yeah, it's she's just more or less echoed what I've just said, that we've got to be more inward looking. The EU is failing as an entity. Its reliance on things outside the EU. Okay, if it had been a little bit more selfish and nationalistic within the EU, maybe even, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. Not the same way. Mutual business is always good. Working with each other, cooperation, of course, it's always good. But not in this forced way we've got. It's a forced economy. The euro, for me, I've always called it be careful trademarking, because Disney are getting quite aggressive at the moment. It's a certain little mouse type of money. It is for me, we've got to, like you say, in the West, have a good look at ourselves. I'm not sure if it's too late already. The fault Margaret Thatcher made, it's one of probably the biggest faults she made, was she tried to rely on commerce to make industry, banking, insurance, etc. The invisible economy, if you like. The balance should always be, and this has always been proven throughout history, as far as I understand, even the Romans found this one out, is localized hard industry, if you like. Being able to source your own materials a bit more locally, not bought it from everywhere else in the world. The Roman Empire actually failed partly because of that. That's why it just split in two. Because it was relying on imports from elsewhere instead of producing locally. And I mean, in the UK, I'm looking at it as a case in point. What happened with Brexit? Everybody panics. How are we going to supply ourselves with food? Where I live, there were lots of fields that were producing fields for food, fruit, everything, fruit, animals, you name it. Oilseed rape, barley, everything. I mean, yeah, I thought, well, where does all this go? Less than 4%, is it less than 10% of the UK is actually urbanised? We got lots of land. Yeah, we got lots of protected land. But what are we doing? We're hitting the farmers who are producing all this locally for some reason, which I do not understand. I can't find the logic in the way the governments are operating. Yeah, we're already talking about fruit pickers and people to work in the fields and everything. I mean, yeah, years ago, labour in the fields suddenly disappeared when mechanisation happened. But yeah, we still need people. So for me, individual countries or regions even, but individual countries across Europe have not got to be more inward looking. How can we prevent this happening? What's our reliance on things outside? I mean, despite what you're hearing, and I know because I worked in the energy sector, the UK is looking at being energy independent. There's actually a website that I'll actually put the link to. That, okay, is an independent third party site, but it actually shows you how the UK is producing its own energy, which is quite interesting. So when I hear that energy prices are going up because of imports, I'm thinking, where are we importing the energy from? We've got wind farms, we got limited. Yeah, we still have some coal places. We've got nuclear. We can produce our own energy for all our needs internally in the UK. I think we're being sold an awful lot of scare tactics. I think all politicians on all sides, and it's getting back to the original story, are throwing us red herrings. Look this way, but we know this is happening. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to say it out loud. Go to hell, politicians across Europe. Go to hell. We don't want you anymore. We do not trust you anymore. You are not fit for purpose. And I mean that, and I direct that directly at a majority, if not all the leaders, apart from a few. Go to hell. You are not serving the people of Europe to the best of our needs. Go to hell. I'm not going to name individuals. I'll let them decide that amongst themselves. Please mess me, and please feel free to comment on the comment section below why you think my statement is too overreaching for your own individual need or for your individually. I'm interested to hear it.